If you're at all a regular viewer of Test It, you know that I kind of have some affection for the props from Blade Runner. It's hard to keep a straight face when I say that. I'm a complete freaking nutter when it comes to Blade Runner props. And behind me is the Blade Runner 2049 prop department overseen by legendary Doug Harlocker. He has worked on absolutely everything. The Men in Black films, 12 Monkeys, Naked Lunch, The Matrix, and he's overseeing the Blade Runner prop department, and he's gonna give me a walkthrough of what they built. I'm gonna try and keep it together. All right, here we go.
So, we're just going to take a walk through the prop shop. This is our warehouse where we're storing all of our props. We basically move it out to set whenever we need it. We've designed over 45 things for this movie and fabricated them from scratch, illustrating them, 3D modeling them, and then prototyping them and reverse engineering them and building them.
And this is also, it involves looking at, I'm sure there are props from the original film that you're referencing or updating or upgrading and calling into the future?
We're using the first movie as a study because it's 30 years in the future now.
Sure.
So the vernacular in that movie we're carrying over to this movie. But of course, obviously all the scenery is quite different. Yeah. You'll see in the movie things have become more distressed and whatever. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the genesis of design, again, we're trying to maintain some vernacular from the first movie, but we're taking it into our own little genre. I mean, you can definitely tell it's in the Blade Runner tradition, a lot of this.
But you're creating a new space, its own space, where the old movie's more like an archaeology of...
Yeah, I think it's a archival moment for us, and we're using elements of that archive to really push the design forward.
That sounds like the best of both worlds, pulling some pieces that are lovely from the old bits, but also completely reinventing the present.
It's great. You have total freedom of design, but you have a slight direction that helps usher you down those paths, and they're complicated design paths for the most part. All of our devices are, hero hand props, often mechanical and electronic, and so we put a lot of thought into the packaging of that. This movie is a huge analog-esque movie, like the first movie. Mm-hmm. So we're trying not to, and we do not introduce, iPads and iPhones, and there's not a wristwatch in the movie, for instance. There's these are things that we're trying to really maintain.
So how much did you guys do? Obviously, you did a bunch of pre-production, but how much got done before, and then how much have you been building on site?
We usually, I am hired 20 to 22 weeks before we start filming, and that's our design period. And you can imagine if you do the math and you've got 40 or 50 things to design from scratch, your illustrator has to design it, has to illustrate it. You have to bring it to the director to get some kind of sign-off. If he wants to improve on it, that's another few days. So it could take a full week to get a sign-off on a particular design.
It's a lot of work.
Then you have to model it, and then you have to build it. So, 40 weeks, we're taking 20 weeks, which means we're invading the film process. We're shooting and still designing and still building right up through the movie. And that's something we try and get as much design and built in pre-production as possible.
Of course.
We try and get certainly the main pieces, guns, and all of the personal, integral parts for the movie we try and get done before we start shooting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I'm noticing this beautiful, what looks like a toolkit.
It's really a manicurist's cart of the future. And this is for one of our characters who literally is just sitting in her chair and having her nails done. And there's a little Japanese man on a tatami mat. And he's wearing specific headgear and using laser instruments to affect her nails. So it's just an interesting thing that we made all this. We didn't animate it because it didn't need to, but we basically made this so it could, fold up, look as though he could wheel it in, and then set it up wherever he is. So
well, let's walk through.
So guns we can talk about a little later. New generation blaster. Yeah. This is the original Deckard blaster, replica and rubber. These are some scav weapons that we made. This shoots a harpoon, essentially. This is basically a visual effect at this point. It's used out in the field. This is just an original design. Looked kind of kludgy, but we designed it and made it from scratch.
And there was a practical one built on for
well, this is basically what we're doing with this is that the muzzle flash and because it shoots a projectile, that is always a visual effect. So we'll shoot him aiming with the bolt in it, and then we will remove the bolt and shoot him. Effects will take over, and they'll shoot a CG bolt and a puff of smoke at that point. There's a huge cable that goes up with it as well. These are some virtual reality glasses. These are little guys that is on one of our actors. This is a very, virtual reality glasses are those things that, can either look just like regular dark glasses or they can look like something that's too big and clumsy to wear. But these are just very austere pieces. It's got a piece of sprung steel in it, so we can make it nice and tight and whatever. But
this is what I hope the future looks like.
Yeah.
Or either that or they'll just build them into our glasses.
Exactly, exactly. This is an example. I can't really tell you what this is, but this is a device that's used, and it's completely analog. Every ring moves basically by touching any button, and basically they move at different speeds, and the speed is controlled by a little button over here. So it actually looks like a little bit like a focus puller's instrument. It does. But when it's moving and operated properly, it's sort of like conducting a little bit of a symphony. Because you can slow things down, make little tweaks, and then you can speed it up and when you want certain things. But this is an interactive device within the movie that, again, I can't tell you much about at this point.
But and the actor actually, so you make a prop that the actor can interface with and has to learn to kind of operate. Yes,
yes, and this is the alternative to building it all into the device and making an animatronic and allowing them to operate it is a big cable that goes up their sleeve and down the bottom of their pants. And that's something that it's problematic. They can't move around. They don't feel really free. Yeah. You're always doing cable removal in post-production to eliminate some cable coming out of the bottom of the pants. And so, we go to great lengths to take a lot of technology and put them into small objects.
Is that your directive, or does that come from Denis?
That's my directive.
That's great.
And until it becomes an impossibility, we do it. And then we have to go to Denis and say, we tried to put a whole lot in this, and we're only getting a percentage of what we want, but the rest will have to be done in post. This is like an eye scanner. It's a little device that one of our characters uses, and basically it is a device that goes up to, and we will CG in an eye in that.
It's a beautiful object. It really I was in Heathrow yesterday, like shopping around, and these all look like they could have been sitting on one of the technology counters that I was looking at. Yeah,
we really try and add like bolt details and things that make it feel like it's real. It's not just it has weight. It has, its mechanics. We try and make sure that there's enough, material in there to tease the audience with, essentially, and of course, electronics.
Lovely.
And then we make rubber. It gets thrown around, so this is a lightweight version. And we make a closed rubber as well that's lightweight. So he can toss this around and we won't go through a whole lot of breakage.
I have always been astounded by how much destruction an actor can impart on a hand prop. I'm not sure how I could have broken it in the specific way that they've returned it to me.
I remember doing the first Men in Black, and I've done all of them. Tommy Lee Jones used to take the neuralizer, which were very sensitive, and we made 6 of them, and they kept breaking, and he would just toss it to me. He'd go, Doug, hey, here's it. And I go, don't. And he would just throw it up in the air. I'd have people will be trying to catch it, end up on the ground, trying to fix it on a table on Fifth Avenue at 4:00 in the morning is not my idea of a good time. Some knives, these are designs of knives that, actually this was from a knife maker that Denis, we showed him a series of knives, and he particularly liked this style of knife.
Oh, wow.
As one,
Scary.
it's very lethal. There you go.
Oh, that's a real genuine
knife.
thing.
Yeah. And then we have, of course, rubber for every single thing that we do.
Sure.
In every configuration.
Oh, wow.
No, I can leave that out. This is the second pattern that he liked, and we had a knife maker make this particular knife. Just very feminine and small, and that's
beautiful.
That, so.
I'm curious. They're actually sharp.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, these aren't
Sharp edge.
incredibly sharp.
Yeah.
But we try and always, for the close-up of the knives, we want them to be metal. We want them to look like we haven't dulled the edges that much. Mm-hmm. Clearly safe for the actor, but the moment that they get into any action. So this would be one that, for instance, behind the actress's back, she did that. So you want it to glisten. You want to see it. It has to be metallic. My idea of making props anyway is that, we can 3D print everything. We can make everything and paint it beautifully to look like metal. But what really sells it is like a little piece of milled aluminum here, real bolts or screws, a little metallic plate or anodized plate here or there. They really sell it as a real thing. They really do. Yeah, it's great.
Could I see one of the rubber ones?
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by it. So then this is for stunt work, and
Yeah, that one's been used for stunt work. You can see that.
And this is rubber you've had metallized.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
No, this is just a paint process that
wow.
we use. It's not. We don't use sort of the vacuum metallized process anymore.
Oh, okay. And then also, I mean, it's the boxing you've done is really beautiful, but I can see it also has a utility to you, is that you can clearly see if anything is missing, you don't lose track of anything.
That's true. And that's a huge deal for us, because if one goes missing, it means it's out there in the real world, and, it could turn up on the internet, and it could spoil part of the movie.
Well, and also as a fellow shop person, I find that when I make a space for something, that something wants to go back into that space.
Yeah. Well, you can, this is the difference between me and a lot of other prop masters, just that organization is a must. Keeping a really clean shop, maintaining that organization is paramount to feeling confident about the movie. And
Clearly.
Skeletons, these are...
Is this for transport, or is
this is
for
the transport
foam part of the prop?
And this is, again, part of our organization is that we have to lay this out as a full skeleton at a couple of points, and we want to make sure that we remember how it goes.
Sure.
Each little... Because, to be honest, this entire skeleton can fit in a lady's purse this big.
Yeah.
So you take all of those bones, and it's like a treasure hunt trying to find the third digit of the
fourth metacarpal on the left hand. Sure.
It's crazy. Yeah. This is a scav communication device. This is a Russian radio that we just basically graffitied up and did some stuff to. However, and we have not done this a lot in the movie, where we've taken a real object and kind of adapted it. We have made a custom one of these that is on its way here, and will be here in a couple of days from LA. And this was almost like a paint study for me.
It's gorgeous.
But it's got a great scale, and in the distance, it may not be such a critical thing. Again, I like to use original things in this movie, but occasionally you've come across something and go, it's so cool. It's
the Dubai color too, and I mean the Chinese and different Asian characters definitely have that Blade Runner feel. But I love the two colors. That's great.
We're trying to, that's part of this movie, is to have introduce a lot of different languages. Of course, the last movie was so Japanesque in its approach to that part of Asia, but now we're trying to get, Arabic and, every conceivable language, where it's really the melting pot, this movie now. And so we get to have fun graphically. We get to do graphics passes and incorporate all sorts of language and nomenclature and things from different cultures and languages. This is what the esthetician, the male... Right. And, I'm not really... It worked on the little Japanese man. It worked really well. basically light these up so that they can.
Nice.
And these, we use, of course, magnets for everything to keep everything together. But this was, something that he wore on his head, and then he used our laser scalpels, which were like, which is this, and this is another design, and these light up. This is a little bit of acrylic at the end, and we basically have a little LED, and so that end lights up and points a little. It's like a little laser dot.
You find that the continuing miniaturization and brightness of different color LEDs in Arduino is increasing your ability to make practical props that...
I love it, yeah, and especially, being able to adjust light levels and color. Obviously, the whole color spectrum is now at your, footstep.
And anti-flicker and all of those things.
Oh, yeah, it's not a problem at all. But what's great is that all that technology has gotten really, really, really small. So you take a rheostat or, a limiter, and it's this big now and can fit into, a very small device. Most of the devices here, we have a way to dim them, so the director of photography can say, wow, can you make that a little brighter given the scene that we're shooting, or can you make it can you take the curse off that? And we used to be able to have to gel them, or, we put a little CA on it just to basically diffuse it a little bit, or, whatever. Now we can do it practically. It's good. These are for another character, a female character in our movie, and we tried to make something that these all have moving parts, so you pull the trigger and these make a movement. There's a light as well, but we tried to give it a little bit of a high-tech feminine part of it, and that's basically, adding color to grip and to other parts.
Yeah.
But
oh, that's beautiful. Wow.
And this is just a variation of that theme for some of her bad guys that are with her, in which case we just altered them a little bit. We don't see these really. I just made them as an aside.
Gorgeous. The closer I can look, the more detailed there is. It's an astounding level or multiple levels of intricacy you've put into everything.
Well, everybody's shooting 4K now, and so the camera sees so much now. It's so crisp, so clear, almost that you can't get away with bad paint jobs or anymore. You can't get away. You really have to be conscious of the fact that it can be. It's going to be a close-up is going to be a righteously crisp and clear close-up and be on a 150-foot screen.
Fascinating. So have you found that I would guess, you just had to adjust to increase the accuracy and veracity, and those layered paint jobs really have to be...
They have to be perfect. If they're not great to the eye...
If they don't sell to you.
If you don't have confidence in it, then all is lost.
That's such a difference from 20 years ago.
And it's from a financial standpoint, it's changed dramatically because, of course, the more you spend on a prop, the more time you spend on it, the more it's going to cost. And fortunately, the movies that I work on, we have the budget, and we use that budget specifically to make our stuff look as perfect as possible and as close up. So this is, again, in the world of our analog
it's
situation. It's we're branding certain things. This is where we have marketing partnerships now. And, people were careful about what name we put or how those partnerships took place. But there are certain products in this movie and the last movie, for instance, Atari and all of these different companies that were actually part of that world. We have done it very few times on this movie, but Sony is actually one of those people that we liked, and it's not a overt, you might remember from the first movie when Deckard uses Polaroids to go in and analyze them.
Yeah.
So this is more of a portable version of this in which he can take, scales, and basically he does that, and this is green.
Oh gosh, that's great.
Because we don't have the images. Sure. We're shooting the images actually now, but we've already shot this out. It'll be done in post. But we put you'll see I put a rotation of a few other images on here in a few seconds, something else will come up. But yeah, see, and that's ultimately. But then in post, we will go down and down and down into this image. But we did this as just a small pocket device, something that he could carry around. And this is his iPhone. Instead of, again, we're trying to stay away from.
But you're in the Blade Runner world where it's a little more clunky than our.
Yeah, it's a metallic object that has, there's more stuff to do, but he gets to play with it and open and close it and whatever.
You guys are having fun. That's gorgeous. And it feels, just for the actor alone, that the level of real interactivity of that is gorgeous. Do you have a count of how many hundreds of separate pieces you guys have fabricated for this movie overall?
Oh, I couldn't count, but it's definitely hundreds and hundreds of pieces. Even in this gun, there's probably 50 pieces that we made.
Wow.
Because we basically, we could have molded this texture into the gun, but when we mold this as a separate piece, when we grew that and then molded it, we realized that, you really get a sense of separation. You get texture. To see the lines in between. It feels like it's actually a real grill or a real, how the texture is pure that way.
Thank you for showing me your toy room. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Come back anytime.
I will.